Welcome back to Careers with Miss V. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today we are meeting with Dr. Katrin, who is a veterinarian, a veterinary behaviorist, and an incredible entrepreneur. Welcome, Dr. Jahn.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm so excited. I know that you're zooming in from Abu Dhabi, which isn't very far away, but it's always great to go around the country and meet professionals. I know, Dr. Jahn, I have so many questions, many young aspiring veterinarians around us, and ever increasingly becoming even more popular. However, it is a really competitive journey to go on, both academically and then professionally. And in meeting veterinarians in the past, I've also come to understand that there's so much more behind the journey of a veterinarian that young people are not aware of. So I'm excited to jump into that conversation. However, before we do that, I'd like to take you back to your young adolescent years. Do you remember thinking about your future career aspirations? And did you always know that you wanted to work with animals?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think for many vets, the answer is quite similar. A lot of us, I think, knew from a very early age that we wanted to be vets or wanted to work with animals at least. And the same is true for myself. So I grew up sort of surrounded by animals. I was fortunate enough to be able to horse ride when I was younger. And I think the standout memory I have is that whenever the veterinarian came to the stables, I just was fascinated, and I would kind of follow them around sort of at a distance. And I would just be fascinated by everything that they did. And so for me, yeah, my career choice was quite clear early on. And I think that was important for me because I was able to make choices, when I was at school, topics, subjects to take, what kind of courses and classes to take. I was able to make those decisions a little bit more easily because I kind of knew what I wanted and what I needed to be able to get into veterinary school.
That's brilliant. Did you have, I know that you were exposed to animals and professionals. Was there anyone in the family that had already walked this path that you thought, I want to be just like that? Or were you the pioneer in this career journey?
I was definitely the pioneer in this career journey in my family. So my parents both, have very different backgrounds. And yeah, so it was a very individual thing. So it wasn't something that I had sort of any kind of idols or examples in the family to look up to. Yeah, it was an individual choice.
So exciting. Okay, so let's jump into some of the roles that you have. You're a veterinarian, but you're also a qualified veterinary behaviorist. You've done training in coaching and mentoring, and you're an entrepreneur. Where did it begin? Obviously, the academic journey. Did you go from being a student to being a veterinarian and then found your way to become a behaviorist and then found your way again into entrepreneurship? Or was there a different process to how you made those choices?
Yeah, it was a little bit the other way around. So obviously being a veterinarian initially is quite a big task in itself. So it takes quite a few years after you graduate from university to sort of find your feet in the veterinary space, to get some experience under your belt, to actually go out into practice, which is quite different to, what and can do when you leave university. So my initial journey was, I started in the UK. I did an internship and then I went on to work in general practice. I then worked at Liverpool University for a little while in sort of academia. So I kind of dipped my toe into all different areas of veterinary medicine. And then I decided to move to the UAE in 2006. And that's where I decided to open my own business. So I became an entrepreneur first, I guess, in 2008. And really sort of solidified, I guess, my career in my own practice. And the veterinary behavior piece has come after that. So I started a residency in veterinary behavior in 2019. I had interest in it beforehand, but sort of actually specializing and becoming qualified, that was something that happened a little bit later. And I think that's one thing that is really sort of unique about the veterinary, oh no, maybe not unique, but that is great about the veterinary profession, in that it continuously gives you opportunities to branch out, do further qualifications, hone your skills more, specialize in a certain area. So, and I think it's really important that we always keep growing and always keep moving, that we don't reach a point in our careers where we sort of stand still. So never mind whether you're a new graduate or whether you're a vet with 20 years experience, there's always more to learn and there's always more directions that you can move in.
Would you say that a young person can become a veterinary behaviorist without the academic training of a veterinarian, or is that only something they can do as an add-on specialism after becoming a veterinarian?
Yeah, so you have to go through the 6 years of being a veterinarian first. Then if you want to specialize in any field, whether it's behavior or cardiology or orthopedics, whatever it might be, you usually have to do an internship first, and then you can enter into a residency program. But you have to be a qualified vet first before you can do that as a vet. You can be a behaviorist without the veterinary side, but that's a very different type of role. That's quite a different job to what I do.
And we're going to come into this, but before we do, I know one of the top questions I get asked all the time is, Miss V, how do I get work experience if I want to be a veterinarian? Would you say that's important for a young person to gain experiences of work, or should they be thinking about it in a different way and not just looking at the go into a clinic and get experiences?
So I think even in order to be able to get a place at university for a veterinary course, you have to show a little bit of experience in at least having, seen some practice, gotten a little bit of practical experience. I think most of the universities like to see that a young person has actually looked into it and has thought, even after they've spent a few weeks in a practice, this is still something I definitely want to do. So that's the one side, I think, before you even kind of decide to do the course, because it's a tough course. So you've got to be in it. I think you've got to be committed. And then the second piece is that during the veterinary course, there are lots of EMS placements, they call it. So lots of practical placements built in where the students can actually apply the knowledge that they've learned in theory in a practical sense. So we had a vet student just last week, actually, from Edinburgh University in the UK. She spent a few weeks with us and we walked her through doing her first surgeries, so that when they do finish and graduate as vets, they have that confidence that they can actually do some of the practical skills that they learn in theory at university. So practice is a big piece of it, but the veterinary course is tough. So it doesn't allow for that much time. I think, the students are occupied, a lot in their university studies. So finding the time to do that practical side of things, I guess, can be a little bit of a challenge, but it's built into the course. So, it's going to be mandatory anyway for some pieces.
What about for younger teenagers that are considering the future career? What are some of the things they can be doing before they make it to university?
So I think, especially here in the UAE, there are so many charities that are concerned with dogs and cats. So I think, volunteering, having a look into that space, seeing what it's actually like working with animals, is that something that is just sort of an ideal, or is it actually something that practically they would like to do? So that's a great piece. Trying to get some experience in a veterinary clinic, that isn't always easy. And I know that from our own experience. There are limitations, I guess, onto sort of health and safety and the ages, at which we would take a work experience student. And I think one top tip I have is, if you are interested in seeing practice in a veterinary clinic, write an email yourself. Don't ask your parents to write the email for you. Write the email or the letter, whatever it is, yourself, because I think, that's something that we sometimes look at and we think, this person has actually, taken the time to write to us themselves, has explained why they would like to come and see practice with us. And we're much more open to that than, if the parent writes the letter for them.
Yeah. And you know what, I say this to students that work with me is, don't believe that if I reach out, it will make it even more powerful, but it actually might put you at a disadvantage. let's sit down and look at what you can write. But I really encourage them to do that. So it's so great to hear you saying that as well. Anyone watching this right now, don't be afraid of making that email or reaching out, making that phone call. Wonderful. Okay, let's jump into a question that I have. You're a busy veterinarian, you're a busy entrepreneur, you jumped into your new specialism. Why did you take a certified professional coaching course? Where did that fit into the equation?
Yeah, that's a good question. So being an entrepreneur isn't easy. We all know that. And especially in a busy veterinary clinic, the veterinary industry is not the easiest industry in the world. It's amazingly fulfilling, but can be quite tough. And I think I reached a point in my career where I just thought I needed some different skills with which to engage with my team. Building a strong team around me has been one of the biggest secrets to my success, I think. Having people that are really sort of engaged in the vision and share the same sort of passion and vision that I do. And we know that managing a team also isn't the easiest thing in the world. So the coaching qualification really came in to try and address that side of things, because again, that's something that I didn't learn in university. You're taught how to be a vet, but you're not taught how to be a business person. So getting those softer skills, the HR side, being able to really pull my team together around me, that's where the coaching really came in. And I work with a coach all the time. I have one coach, sometimes two coaches at one time, that just help me kind of stay on track and make sure that I keep sort of connected with myself and my cause, and make sure that I don't kind of get caught up in the hamster wheel that we can easily get caught up in.
I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because with young people, I'm often also telling them, think outside the box, try to pick up on skills that will make you stand out, things that can help you be better at the things that you'll need that they won't teach you. Communication skills is a big one. It's assumed that we are able to do that, but it's really challenging to find time to actually learn how to do that. And I imagine working with clients every day, the owners of the pets that come into your practice, they're very emotionally connected to their pets. And so you, as a veterinarian, alongside your team, I almost imagine building that rapport with your clients is really vital to making them feel that they can trust you and that they can rely on the experience that you have. Would you say that a young person should spend more time learning the skills of listening and questioning and being better at communicating?
Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, that communication breakdowns or, flaws in communications are probably the number one thing. I think, when something goes wrong, you can usually track it back down to communication somewhere. It's such a vital skill, being able to listen and hear, and, being able to communicate clearly, precisely, well. That's such an important skill. And I don't think we're ever really taught it. I'm not sure we're ever taught it in school. We're certainly not taught it in university, or at least I wasn't. And yeah, it's such an important skill. So absolutely, yes, it's a big one.
Interesting. Okay, what's it really like to be an entrepreneur who works with patients that can't verbalize what they're feeling?
Challenging sometimes, but I think over the years, you really learn to read the patients very well. So we rely a lot on body language, facial expressions, information that we get from the pet owner. So, they will usually report to us what they've observed, what has changed, why they think that there's a problem. So again, that's where those listening skills come in, where they're so important. So picking up on the communication via the pet owner to actually transfer that back to the pet. So yeah, it can be difficult, but sometimes actually a pet's communication is very honest and very true. They don't sort of, I guess, cloud their words with any nuances. What they tell us through their body language is usually, what they're experiencing. So there are pluses and minuses. I think, yeah, obviously we're verbal communicators first and foremost, so that can be a challenge, but you soon learn to pick up on the communication that the pet offers.
Other question that comes into my careers hub when I'm working with students, when we're talking about building on those skills that they might need in their future, comes the question of, Miss V, how do I emotionally disconnect from the pain of my patients? How do you do that? It must be really challenging to see a vulnerable animal who can't express what they're feeling, and you know that there's something wrong. How do you make those difficult decisions with patients who can't speak for themselves?
Yeah, and that's why the veterinary profession has such a huge mental health challenge, right? Because we do suffer from compassion fatigue. We do struggle with exactly those aspects, putting animals to sleep, being very emotionally involved in sort of end of life cases, seeing suffering, all those things are hard for us to deal with. And that's why, as I mentioned, we have such a big mental health crisis within the veterinary community. So taking care of your own mental health, I think, is a massive piece. And that's something that we strongly advocate for within my clinic, making sure that, people can express if they're if they're struggling with something. That's how we as a team then kind of pull together and, support each other through those difficult decisions. So again, the importance of team, the importance that people know that they can say if they're not feeling comfortable about something, and that they know that we will have their back. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. It's not something that there's a clear answer to, and it's different for each individual how they deal with things. Some people do yoga, some people meditate, some people do sports. Some people go out into nature. So it's just depends on how you as an individual can kind of counterbalance those stressful emotional situations.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's jump into where can we find you? I've been following you, Dr. Jahn. I actually came across your work on your Facebook group. It popped up on my page, and I have 2 dogs myself, and trying to manage my 2 pets. And I've worked with several different trainers through the years, and I decided I'm going to learn how to do this. And I appreciated the courses in this and the opportunities that you provided for the public. But let's share that with everybody. How can we find you if we're looking for you?
Yeah, sure. So I run 2 businesses. The first one is my bricks and mortar clinic, which is the German Veterinary Clinic in Abu Dhabi. So you can find us on our website at germanvet.ae. We also have a Facebook page, which is German Veterinary Clinic, and an Instagram account, which is the same, German Veterinary Clinic. And then my second business is a purely veterinary behavior business, and it's an online business. So that's Trinity Veterinary Behaviour. And that really allows me to provide behavior services to people globally. So I offer online behavior consultations. We've got lots of free resources on that website. So that's Trinity Vet Behaviour, behavior spelt O-U-R, so the European way of spelling it. And then my Facebook group, I think that you just mentioned, is the Pet Behavior Community. And that is such a great Facebook group because we talk about lots of stuff regarding behavior. And we have lots of live chats in there, lots of live Q&As. We have courses, as you mentioned. So I've just finished an online course called Learn to Speak Dog, which is for pet owners, but also people in the profession. And we go in 7 weeks, we kind of go through, how dogs communicate, how they process emotions, things that we can do to sort of enrich their everyday lives. So that's was a great success. And we've run that course in person at my clinic as well. But I reckon online is such a great space because, again, we had people from all over the world in the course, which was lovely. So, yeah. And, I've got lots of courses planned coming up. I've got a Learn to Speak Cat course planned coming up at the end of the year. And then I do lots of free webinars, both dogs, cats. I'm going to do something on horses. So yeah, there's lots and lots in the group. So that's the Pet Behavior Community. Yeah, that's the Facebook group.
So listening to you are a true and true, straight through entrepreneur. Where did you learn to be an entrepreneur?
I don't know. I don't think I did learn it. I think it's a little bit within you. And that's not to say that you can't learn to be an entrepreneur. It's just that I didn't, formally set out to learn how to be an entrepreneur. I think I'm curious, and I think I love the online space. I think it's something that's so valuable because it gives us a global platform. And then obviously in the last 2 years, that's become more and more important, as we know. I haven't got an answer for that one, I'm afraid. I didn't learn to be an entrepreneur. It just kind of happened, I guess.
So for a young person watching this thinking, I want to be an entrepreneur, what are your tips for getting the platform seen? Because it's quite a distracted platform, isn't it? It's very busy, lots of competition. How do you stand out as an entrepreneur on that online space?
I think having a very clear niche. So, that veterinary behavior space, I think, is quite a niche space. Really sort of having a clear why and understanding who your audience is, what it is that you can bring to the world, specifically. Just spending a little bit of time finding that out, figuring out who you are and what is your unique thing that you bring to the world. And then, really kind of just building around that by offering, resources. I think one thing that I found has been really useful or really helpful for me is providing free resources, providing lots of free content, making sure that it's not too commercial, but that you actually give value, that you give lots and lots of value so that people can buy into who you are, understand what your philosophy and your vision is, and then it kind of grows from there. But I think that would be my most important point, is what makes you special. And I think once you've understood that, then there can be as much competition as you like. Once you've understood who you are and what your unique magic is that you bring to the space, then it doesn't matter how many other veterinary behaviorists there are out there, because, I will have my particular voice, I guess.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here and for sharing all of your insights from being a young adolescent and how you found your way into your career, and then how you've transitioned from being a veterinarian to specializing in veterinary behaviorism, going off and learning on a path very different to what your average veterinarians might be doing, because you knew that there was a better way for working with your team. And then, of course, setting off again as an entrepreneur and taking advantage of keeping up with technology and going on that online space. You're very inspiring, Dr. Jahn, and I know that anyone watching this will also want to reach out to you. So if you're a young person watching this right now and you're inspired and want to be a veterinarian, follow some of the tips that Dr. Jahn suggested today, and don't be afraid to step outside the box. Your future it's really your journey. So enjoy that journey, take lots of opportunities to build on your skills, and take advantage of the digital platforms that are there for you. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at my next Let's Talk Careers with Miss V.